Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, on Thursday called on the Osun State Governor, Ademola Adeleke, to tell the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission to call off Saturday's local government election in the state. The AGF, in a statement he signed in Abuja on Thursday, warned that conducting a new local government council election would not only be invalid, but would also amount to a breach of the Constitution, since the tenure of the purportedly sacked council chairman is still running according to last week's decision of the Court of Appeal, Akure Division. Osun State has been engulfed in a political crisis between the ruling People's Democratic Party and the opposition All Progressive Congress over the 18 local government seats in the state. The crisis escalated on Monday, leading to the killing of 6 persons, including an APC chieftain. The AGF, in his Thursday statement, urged Governor Adeleke to toe the path of law and shun violence. The AGF recalled that a few days before the swearing-in of Governor Adeleke, the Federal High Court, Osogbo, delivered a judgment nullifying the local government election. Fagbemi noted that as soon as Governor Adeleke assumed office, a few days after the judgment, he issued an executive order for the physical removal of the elected officials and replaced them with caretaker appointees. Aggrieved by Governor Adeleke's order, the APC, as a party in the Federal High Court case, appealed against the judgment before the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal, in a judgment delivered on February 10, resolved the issues against the judgment of the Federal High Court by allowing the appeal. The AGF noted that by this decision, the judgment of the Court of Appeal has, by implication, effectively restored the elected local government officials removed by the Federal High Court back to their offices. He added that according to the facts made available to his office, it was the attempt by the said elected officials to resume their positions that was resisted by some disgruntled elements, which led to the crisis in the state. He said, His Excellency, the Governor of Osun State, Ademola Jackson Adeleke, is no doubt aware of this scenario and ought to have, as a leader, called the disgruntled elements to order in accordance to his oath of office to maintain law and order in Osun State. Warning against a fresh local government polls scheduled for Saturday, the AGF said, any such election that may be held will not only be invalid, since the term of office of the elected officials just restored by the judgment of the Court of Appeal will still be running until October 2025. It will also amount to an egregious breach of the Constitution, which Governor Adeleke has sworn to uphold. Again, the recent judgment of the Supreme Court, which has validated an entrenched local government autonomy, also strengthens the obligation of Governor Adeleke to ensure smooth, non-violent transition from one elected official to another in accordance with the statutorily prescribed 3-year tenure. For the avoidance of doubt, when proceedings and decisions of the court are declared a nullity for lack of jurisdiction, it means they do not exist and have no effect whatsoever. Ura, what do you make of the crisis going on in Osun State and the stand of the AGF?
It's an open and closed end. For once, I commend the Attorney General of the Federation for trying to wade into this crisis, because it's a sad thing that this kind of thing is happening. Because when you look at the whole matter, these people were removed by Federal High Court. And these were state legislators.
Local government
government chairman.
Yes.
They were removed by Federal High Court. And at the end of the day, they went to appeal.
Yes.
And appeal reinstated them. And the funny thing is, we're in 2025.
In 2025, yes.
Yes, we're in 2025.
Few months.
Yeah.
By October.
Their tenure will be over. So what is all the brouhaha for? You know, the thing that bemuses me about this country is how our politicians get desperate to get to power. Even in a strategic form, you look at their strategies, there's no guile, there's no intellect, there's no smartness in the way we do it, and it totally reflects. Everything is brute force. Everything is, I have to show you that I am the one, you know. And at times, it always backfires in different ways because you're setting the precedent for the next person that will come after you to also treat you that way. Also treat people exactly the way you're treating them because they think that that is the way in governance. Now, I am happy that the AGF stepped in and spelled out the law the way it's supposed to be because now you're going to organize an election on Saturday, being today, rather. No, being tomorrow.
On Saturday, tomorrow is Saturday.
Yeah, being tomorrow. It's going to cost the state money. With the way the nation is now, every state needs money. And you have till October to prepare for that. Why not govern? The money you're going to spend in election, there are things that can happen in Osun State that people's life will be affected. The kind of vicious politics we play in this country is part of the viciousness shows in the fact that our lives don't get any better. Because I don't see any reason why 6 people are already dead as a result of this. Now, who is going to take responsibilities for this life? Are there consequences for these people that have died, or did they die for nothing?
Has there been any consequences for death in Nigeria? I'm asking you, has there been any consequences?
That's why I'm
to the extent that you know.
No, they've not been a lot of consequences. Though here and there, there have been justices served. I can't say it's all doom and gloom. But the problem is, they've never been real. They've never been a spectrum for when you look at it and say there are consequences.
Yes.
What are consequences metrics on things, on value in our society? How do people, irrespective of who you are, if you look at countries like China, they dealt with one problem, one very, very important problem, corruption. To the highest level, like if you're an elected official or if you're somebody holding an important position, and it's not just about money. You use the position to take advantage. It was death penalty. And you could see how China has become what it has become today. And until in Nigeria, things like this begin to happen, where people know that. Because now these 6 people that died in Osun, at the end of the day, they died for nothing. Politics will continue. If you look at it, probably who gave the order for them to die will never be mentioned. If anybody is going to be prosecuted at the end of the day, probably the foot soldiers, the people that that carried out whatever it was. But there are people that told them to go and do these stuffs. People gave instructions. People funded. And that is the problem in our society. We look at the small fishes. We don't look at the big fishes, the people that are behind all this. Now, why is this happening in Osun State now? At this time. I understand politicians, the governor wants to control the local government.
The structure.
Yeah, he wants.
Some say, you know, there have been allegations. River State has had its own running battle. It's still a matter of litigation with the House of Assembly extending the tenure of the local government chairman and then the governor acting otherwise and going for an election. And then less than a month after Osun became the governor of Edo State, you are a witness to the local government crisis in Edo State and how the State House of Assembly suspended the entire local government chairman, and of course there have been gale of impeachments in Edo State. Now, moving over to Osun State, there has been a reinstatement by the judgment of the appeal court, but the governor is still, you know, his mind is made up on conducting an election. Now, people are saying, or there are concerns that, one, there are 2 ways to this. One of the concern is the need to control the state, the local government structure.
Yeah, the political need. Yes.
Now, the second one is the financial autonomy that has been granted to the local governments. You understand? Now, the governors, to a large extent, cannot control
based on that financial autonomy.
Yes, so now these are the 2 major concerns that people are raising with respect to the crisis going on in certain states.
Yeah, if you look at from River State to Edo State to Osun State, you cited the whole crisis. It's a very sad thing that in our democracy, when you look at the 3 tiers, when you look at the federal, the state, and the local government has been the most disparated, like disparaged in the sense that the governors have used local governments as instruments. They've used them. Imagine that every president we've had since Obasanjo had used states as instrument. Like he decides to remove
a kind of
governor,
dictatorial kind of approach
imagine
to states.
Tinubu or Buhari deciding to remove a governor, because imagine all the back and forth Wike and Tinubu had when Wike and Buhari when Buhari was president. But he let Wike be the governor of the state, because constitutionally Wike has a duty to represent the people of Rivers State and say what he feels and what he thinks is better for the people of Rivers State. Now, the sad thing is the things the governors do. Governors have always used, I've seen it play out many times, local government as an instrument of strength. Have they ever asked themselves, at the federal level, how is it that the leadership at their parties at the federal level can still get governors to work with them without doing what they are doing to the local government, without saying, oh, because you not work with us, we'll remove you and put a caretaker governor? I don't know if you understand. Imagine the Senate or the National Assembly sitting there and say, okay, we are going to remove this governor and put a caretaker governor. Sometimes these things are even them. I look at the state lawmakers. I wonder if some of them are my colleagues from school, some I know them. I wonder if, do you guys sit back and ask yourself some of the decisions you make? Is it something you set out in your life to make those kind of decisions? Because some things are irritating and they should not stand. If the local government people have been elected by law, which is the highest thing, the only way they can be removed is when they are impeached by their councillors, which is the law, which is the process of the law. The councillors are the legislators in the local government area government. So if the councillors representing the wards feel that the chairman is not working well and they have, I think, a 2/3, they can impeach the chairman. That is the legal way to go about it. But when a governor sits down and tries to use his power and goes to use the courts, that is the one that makes me go mad. Courts that grant this kind of cases, which is why we complain about our judicial system. Why will a governor go through the court to dissolve a local government council and try to appoint a caretaker? A local government council that has been elected, that has followed the process. So sometimes when we talk about these things, we should point out the flaws in them, that this is not right. This is not the way to go about it. This is not what we expect of governance. And for me, I don't support Adeleke in this. And I thank the AGF for pointing it out and for talking about the law, the way when he was pointing, and also reminding them of the autonomy of the local governments. In the
now that to a large extent in Osun State, that when you look at the body language of the governor, it appears that probably this is just the beginning of the crisis and possible bloodshed in Osun State. Because if the governor goes ahead with these local government elections, what's going to happen is that after the elections, he will want to swear them in. Now, this installed or reinstated local government chairman, whose tenure will finish in October 2025, would not want to leave the secretariat for this these newly inaugurated ones, unless the governor is saying that this election will have to wait and take effect after October. Is that what he's saying?
Which is what he's supposed to do.
And you know that in Nigerian political ecosystem, whenever local government elections is being done, it's usually a winner takes it all kind of system where the ruling party usually wins all the seats. You understand? So now, this could also tell why, the political parties are really embroiled in this, because now this is fight for survival of the opposition party, which in turn, you can get them at the local government level.
Everything you're saying, it's from a political, analytical level, trying to win an election, trying to be there. A lot of political scientists or analysts are of the opinion that whatever it is it takes for you to win an election, do it. or for you to have control. But some of us are also of the opinion that humanity first. You know, when you look back in hindsight, when you do things in life today, when you look back in hindsight and history, posterity sets you free. I can use an example. Our former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, he made a very important statement that he would not, because of his ambition, allow the bloods of Nigerians to be spilled. Now, when you look at in hindsight what he said with the USAID scandal and everything that is coming out, you know that Jonathan actually prevented a civil war by just letting things be. And posterity will always look back at him and say, you're a great man. Because there's a lot of temptation being the commander-in-chief of the armed forces that people want to just push you out of your office, and you have a lot of resources that you can use and push back and fight, irrespective of what happens. You can decide to burn down the country. And at that moment, you have the courage and the wisdom to say, no, if this is what they want to prevent a larger scale something, let them have it.
All right.
So I think our politicians should borrow a leaf in that maturity that a leader that has led this country has shown. It shows that a lot of people in Nigeria have the courage, irrespective of whatever personal gains they are going to have, to do the right thing. And I expect Adeleke, Governor Adeleke, to have that courage to do what is right for the sake of Osun State people whom he said he's representing, whom he said he's fighting on their behalf, whom he said he wants their betterment. He's from a wealthy background. I don't understand what he wants. He was wealthy before he became governor.
There's a difference between wealth and power.
I think the real power lies in the people. The real power doesn't lie in all these things they are doing. That's why in Nigeria you have governments that have power but are not popular.
For politicians, the power lies in grassroots. And for you to get the grassroots in this instance is to get the structure that controls the grassroots.
I understand.
And the structure that controls the grassroots now would be the local government. But then when you look at it from the other angle, one would say, where goes the political strategy of lobbying? You can easily lobby these people, you know, to defect to your camp. You have a lot of resources.
Do you know why it's
Though the only thing now is that with the financial autonomy, it will be difficult. Right, because these people can stand up to you. Not only monies they generate from the federal, they can also generate money internally within their local government. So probably to be tricky.
You know, when you mentioned grassroots, you only looked at it from a political perspective.
Yes.
But every democracy, before you talk of the federal level, you start from the grassroots. Every developing nation starts from the grassroots, both economically, socially, and that it's the grassroots that everything starts from. And that's why it's always been surprising that the pyramid in Nigeria, instead of facing like this, the base is actually up and the tip is actually downwards. And that's where we have to change the dynamics, because if you look at our national politics, even at the state level, there's no ideology. The ideology is money and power. That's why you can see somebody being APC today, tomorrow he's in PDP, next tomorrow he's back to APC.
Labour Party.
Because the problem is there's no ideology. These parties do not have, they can't tell you that this is their plan. That's why when Tinubu's
then they have never denied it. I mean, politicians will always tell you one thing. When politicians speak, they don't tell you about ideology, they tell you about interests.
That's what I'm saying.
Interest is very different from ideology. They will always tell you that politics is about interest.
A country where their politicians do not, especially parties, do not have certain ideologies, which a country where their politicians are only based on interest of what the political class is going to get, then you have a problem for that country.
Who makes up the political parties?
Let me tell you.
Who makes up the political class?
I'm coming. Let me explain to you. You know, in politics, there are partisan politicians that do not participate. Some are funders, business people that fund politics. Now, they fund for interest. They fund because this politician, his narrative is that he's going to do so and so thing about business, and in their own business ideology, that favors them.
Profit.
That is interest. So they put their money there. So they are supporting that party because the party's business idea matches their own idea. So they are ready to fund the party all the way. Unfortunately, in our society, it's the politicians that formulate the idea, they formulate everything, and it's not like a shark-infested water, because the whole thing there is, these guys, is even under the military that we had Vision 2020 vision, this one, that the military government with all its backwardness and everything could tell you that, okay, see where we envision with our economic policy, the direction Nigeria is going to. Since we came back to democracy, no party has ever told us, even the PDP that did 16 years or more or about 20 something, I think, from 1999 to...
We've had 19-point agenda, haven't we?
From Yaradua.
We've been having agendas.
12-point agenda, Yaradua.
12-point agenda, thank you. We've been having agendas, haven't we?
And Yaradua didn't last. Died mysterious circumstances, which till today I don't understand for a president of Nigeria. But you could see among the presidents, you know, he had a clear-cut agenda. Whether what you're doing works, you know what I like about leadership is, I consistently say this about leadership. The leader doesn't have to be the smartest person in the room. The leader has to be the guy that makes the smartest person, the dullest person, the strongest person, the weakest person, the finest person, the ugliest person, everything about all the persons. He brings them together and makes them work like an orchestra, like he's a conductor in an orchestra. He's not playing any of the instruments. He's just conducting how the instruments are played, but you get a beautiful symphony, you get a beautiful orchestra out of, and you enjoy a good show. That's what a leader does. So a leader leads, a leader looks at, so you can make a decision as a leader and you find out, oh, I made a hasty decision. No, we've not had those kind of things. We've not had those kind of discourse. Nigeria, what we rather do is we have reactive kind of, a reactive kind of system.
Approach.
Yes, not a proactive kind of system, where things have been put in place. We know what to expect. We know what to work to. We don't have a national orientation agency that tells you that this is government's plan for the next 1 year. Everything is haphazard. So everybody takes an advantage of, oh, let them see me shining, let them see that I'm making an impact. So there's no collective effort. And the parties, the political parties, you can imagine Tinubu's aides and all the people around him saying that they inherited a very bad government that is from, when they are from the same political party, the same APC. And Tinubu was the leader of APC for 8 years when Buhari was president. And you're coming to tell me that kind of stuff. How do you expect me to even look at you? Those are the problems. That's why Governor Adeleke can do what he's doing. It's the impunity that comes with having power in Nigeria that has to be managed. It has to be managed at all the levels because it has destroyed, the executive has corrupted the legislation, in that whole process, the judiciary has become questionable. And when you have all this, because the legislative arm of government is supposed to check the executive arm of government. And when you don't have all these things working how it's supposed to work, you have a problem. Nigeria seems to be somebody that's playing around a cliff, hoping it won't fall off.
All right, very well.